passage this morning comes from Isaiah, first in the 9th chapter and then the 11th. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace. For the throne of David and his kingdom, he will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness, from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. And from Isaiah chapter 11, a shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion with the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them.
Pray with me. Lord, I pray that you would speak through me or in spite of me, that you would take the words of my mouth and meditations of each of our hearts, that they would be gathered up by you, measured and found always to be acceptable in your sight. God, who is our strength and our Redeemer. For it's in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen. So the season of Advent has begun. And Advent means appearing, but in this season it's a season of waiting and preparation for the gift of Christmas, and also in the now Christmas and the not yet, that we're waiting for his second coming. So it's a season of preparation, a season of waiting. It's also a season of traditions, right? We've all got traditions in our homes and our families that some of them go back years and years and years. And some of those routines become sacred for us. Some of them are annoying, right? Like in my house, when growing up, my sister, Megan, could not wait for the first light of dawn to come and wake me up and tell me it was Christmas morning. Sometimes it would be as early as 4:30 in the morning, and she'd come into my room and say, "Larry, it's Christmas morning. We should go wake up Mom and Dad." I think it's a bad idea to wake up Mom and Dad right now. But we do it anyway. We go in there, and my excitement would grow too. We'd think, okay, we're going to rush down the stairs, and we're going to see if Santa Claus came and everything that's there under the tree. But Dad always made us wait in their bedroom while he took a shower. And every day of the work week, my entire life, my dad took a shower, and he probably averaged 10 minutes total. But on Christmas morning, I kid you not, it took him an hour. So he'd get dressed, and we'd go downstairs, and we'd see everything around the tree, and we'd get so excited, we're ready to tear into stuff, and he'd say, "Not yet, I need to brew a pot of coffee." Now, we had a regular drip coffee pot that even had the sneak a cup feature. It didn't take that long, but God is my witness. It took 45 minutes on Christmas morning for that cup of coffee. He still tries to do that. Mom and Dad are divorced now, so we split time, and Dad comes and hangs out with us at our house for Christmas. And Christmas morning, the girls are ready to go, and he's got to take a shower, and he's got to have a pot of coffee. And I'm like, "No, this is my house. You have your shower and your coffee. We're digging into the gifts." We have a tradition in our house. Well, it's not really so much a tradition as it is a predictable routine. And the predictable routine is that I'm a terrible gift giver. And what I mean by that is, first, I can't wrap a gift to save my life. If I would have wrapped this morning, you would have wondered how I was able to get myself out of bed. So Brittany wraps everything unless it's for her. I press gang my church staff into wrapping gifts for me so I can take to her. And she started to figure that out a few years ago. She's like, Renee did that one, didn't she? Oh man, I'm caught. Second part of that is not only am I not wrapping anything, I think I'm really good at finding gifts to the point that I can't keep a secret. I'll get a gift, I'll get the perfect gift, and how many years have you gotten a gift before Christmas Day? Just about every year. It works in her favor, because then I feel bad. It's just getting on Christmas morning. A few years ago, I decided I was going to get her a car for Christmas. And I'm the type of person that I research everything to death, so I started real early, looking for the right car, and I was at a certain mileage range, certain price range. The car, the one, came available in September. You're seeing the problem here. I went to painstaking lengths to make sure Brittany didn't know about this. I had all of the paperwork sent to my church office, so she didn't see any of that. I had a parishioner storing his barn. We covered it up. I was going to find a big bow and leave it in the garage on Christmas morning. I gave it to her on October 1st. It's a predictable routine in our house. What routines do you have? What Christmas traditions do you have? We have some holy ones too. Love Christmas Eve service. It's my favorite service of the whole year, particularly the 11 o'clock Christmas Eve service. And you saw on your invite card that we're bringing that back this year, 4:30, 7 o'clock, and 11. It's my favorite service of the whole year. I don't get 9 o'clock. I don't get it, because it's just late when you're done. But 11 o'clock when you're done, it's Christmas morning, people. That's the most exciting thing ever. What traditions do you have that mark this season? Sometimes our traditions, though, become routine. What happens when the traditions and the hustle and bustle actually become shackles that keep us from experiencing the true gift of the season? Christmas can become this routine that's completely expected. It's never awe-inspiring. It's never unexpected. There's a lot of things that we expect, and they're not all good things. We expect huge shopping crowds. We expect that on the 10 o'clock news last Friday night, we were going to see some kind of video footage of some riot over the latest, greatest Black Friday deal. And we saw it. We expect the usual holiday TV specials, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Scrooge, Miracle on 34th Street, 24 straight hours of a Christmas story. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. And whatever Hallmark channel brings up that is essentially the exact same story with different actors. We expect visits with family, and some of those are really exciting, and some of those are like, that's been on the calendar for a while. We expect school Christmas programs and special activities at church. We expect the tree and the garland, the eggnog, so on and so forth. It becomes so usual. We know what's coming. When we approach the season of Advent in a manner that's so routine, is it any surprise that Christmas ceases to wow us anymore? And if ho 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 has led you to ho ho hum, is there any chance that life can be different? Today we're starting a new sermon series called Under Wraps, the gift that we never expected. And throughout these weeks of Advent, I'll be preaching about a characteristic of God that's meant to open the Christmas story to us in a new way, in a life-changing way, in an unexpected way. And today, our characteristic, our word is expectant. God is expectant. And I hope that as I share about the expectancy of God, that your expectancy about Christmas will rise, and you might get a little more excited, you might grow a little closer to the God we serve, and want to worship the child that He sent into the world even more. The challenge before us, though, is that even if you're like me and you didn't grow up in the church, you know these stories, and you know them really well. You know about Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus, and no room in the inn, and shepherds and magi, and the angels singing hallelujah. How do we go deeper and allow that to wow us? In the first passage of Scripture that was read from Isaiah, it talks about God's expectancy. These are words that are written hundreds of years before Jesus was born, but they clearly and with great detail prophesied that the Messiah was coming into the world. Isaiah preached these words sometime between 700 and 681 BC. That's 700 years before the events came to pass, that the prophets were already talking about them in this level of detail. 700 years before Jesus was born, the prophet Isaiah wrote, "A child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests on his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness From this time onward and forevermore, the zeal, the passion of the Lord of hosts will do this. That's incredible detail. That's a lot of expectancy. And 700 years later, God sends the angel Gabriel to a little town called Nazareth to announce to a young girl, probably 13, 14 years old, that she's going to give birth to the Messiah. And we know that part of the story. We know the angel coming to Nazareth and making this announcement, and Mary's humble response. But have you ever heard of a town called Sepphoris? Probably not. Sepphoris was a city 4 miles north of Nazareth. It's not mentioned in the text because it didn't need to be. People in the first century who were reading this, they knew Sepphoris. It was Nazareth that needed to be explained to them. Nazareth is such a small, no-account village that it's not even listed amongst the towns of Galilee during the census. It's like I've been explaining to people recently. We say that we just moved to a town called Tremont. Where's that? You know Peoria? Yeah, we know Peoria. It's kind of there, but nicer. In the first century, the same was true of Nazareth and Sepphoris. Nazareth was a small, no-account village with probably somewhere between 100 and 400 people living in it. Sepphoris, 4 miles to the north, had 30,000 people. It was well known, it was respected, it was the center of culture and education. Sepphoris was the place to live. If you wanted a zip code with a little zip in it, it would be Sepphoris. If you're looking for a great education, it would be Sepphoris. If you wanted theater, culture, shopping, prestige, it was Sepphoris. Sepphoris was the home of the rich and famous. People from Nazareth, they lived in homes carved out of rock, caves. Sepphoris, they had magnificent homes with beautifully intricate tile mosaic floors. Here's a photo of one Judy's going to put up for us. This is called the Madonna of the Galilee, and it's been excavated just in the last 10 years or so. This isn't in a palace or a cultural center. This is in somebody's home. This level of detail existed in their homes. People from Nazareth probably walked to Sepphoris to mop these floors. We're talking about a huge difference here. So here's the expected question, the full question. What does this say about God? What does this say about God that he chose to go to a girl in Nazareth and not Sepphoris? God sends the angel to a place not with the luxuries and best schools and culture and prestige. He sends the angel to a servant class, uneducated, unwed girl in Nazareth and told her that she would give birth to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. What does that tell you about the character of God? What does that tell you about where God's favor lies, if not with those who are humble? That God is concerned with those whom others try to make feel small. That God lifts up the humble and knocks down the proud. This is important for us to remember as we consider the Christmas story. All of us in this room, relative to the rest of the world, are affluent. We've had some measure of success and education, and we need to remember, what we need to remember is that while there's nothing wrong with those things, God is particularly looking for people who will walk humbly before him. God is expectant. He created this expectancy about the coming of the Messiah, and the people grew to expect and wait for that day. They knew it had to come. See, God created us in his image to be in relationship with him, but ever since the first human sin has separated us from God. And God gave us commandments, and he sent judges and prophets and kings, but the people again and again and again turned their backs on God. So God knew before the foundation of the world that he would one day have to send himself, his son, wrapped up into human flesh to reconcile, to redeem his children, to reconcile them to himself once and for all. He was expectant of that day. He expected that it would change the world. And the people were growing in their expectancy and their anticipation as well. They waited a really long time for this. Even the name of the village, Nazareth, points to that expectancy. It comes from a Hebrew word, netzer, and it's a branch or a shoot. It's an image of a tree that's been cut down and just a dead stump is left, but then a new branch shoots out of that stump. The new branch is what we call a netzer. Why would they name their village after a tree that had been cut down? Except that Isaiah and Jeremiah and Zechariah, the prophets, all use the image of a tree that had been cut down to the stump as a metaphor for the people of Israel. When the Assyrians destroyed them, when the Babylonians carried them into exile, when the Romans occupied their land and taxed them into poverty and desecrated their temple, they were cut down like a tree, again and again and again. But the prophets foretold that a day was going to come that God was going to raise up a shoot out of that dead stump, a netzer. And Israel would have a new beginning. The human race would have a new beginning. Netzer, a shoot, a new branch, was coming out of what was once dead. This was their hope. In the second passage we read from Isaiah 11, it says, "A shoot shall come from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them." They were ready. They were waiting. They were hoping for this to happen. God built this expectancy, and the people were so expectant and so hopeful that they named their village Nazareth, to show their hope and expectancy in God's Messiah. To be a reminder of that hope, so they wouldn't lose sight of that hope, even 700 years later. The message of the prophets that foretold the birth of the Messiah points to the truth that there are no hopeless causes with God. None. When people named their village Nazareth, they were saying that we believe that there's always hope, that God will deliver us. We believe that the day is going to come that God's going to send a new king to transform the world. And little did the founders of this village know that the netzer that they were waiting for, the one that was foretold in Isaiah and Jeremiah and Zechariah, would be a child who would grow up in their midst. A child from their own village. We know the rest of the story from there, right? Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem, and while they're there, it comes time for her to have the baby, and there's no room in the inn, and so they Airbnb it to a stable. There's so much more to the story than that. Just like Nazareth is in the shadow of Sepphoris, the little town of Bethlehem is in the shadow of something called the Herodium. And I have a picture of that as well. The Herodium looks like just a giant mountain somewhere. Actually, it's a man-made mountain, and it's taller than the Great Pyramid at Giza. It was built by King Herod the Great. Hear it? Herodium. He named it after himself. Real proud guy here. Named it after himself so he could, as a testament to his own greatness. Look at how wonderful I am. And it was really something to behold. On top of the mountain was a gigantic palace for Herod. There were lush gardens and pools for bathing and swimming and wonderful apartment villas for his guests. There was a gigantic theater that could hold 300 people, and when they were done with the theater, there was enough room in the dining room for everyone. From the Herodium, you can look down on the little town of Bethlehem. And from Bethlehem, you live in the shadow of the Herodium. Again, what does this tell us about the gift that God has given? Why not raise up a king from this great fortress? One who would have military might and unlimited resources. But on Christmas Day, the first Christmas Day, there was no luxury villa and bathhouse. There were swaddling clothes and a feeding trough. This place of no account, this is where God would give his greatest gift, the one that we never expected. And Christmas can become so routine that we lose that expectation. We lose the wonder of it all. We lose the difference between the Herodium and Bethlehem and Nazareth and Sepphoris. We miss those finer details of the story. We lose the wonder of it all. We forget that we're not celebrating the birth of a president. It's not just some time off of school. We're celebrating the birth of a king. And not the king of some ancient empire long ago, but the king of the universe. The one who's the crown prince of the kingdom of God, the one whom 1/3 of the world's population claim him as their Lord. Jesus said that he was going to found a kingdom that would be in our hearts, and he gave us the laws of that kingdom. He said, in this kingdom you will love the Lord your God with everything you are, and you'll love your neighbor as yourself. In this kingdom you'll love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. He said, blessed are the peacemakers and the meek and the lowly. In this kingdom you do unto others the way that you would have them do unto you. In this kingdom you will live for God and live for others and take up your cross daily and follow me. This is the king that we celebrate. This is the gift that we've been given. God had promised King David 1,000 years before that one of his descendants would always be on the throne. What kind of king reigns forever? Except for the one who died and rose again and now reigns on high. So we still follow him. We still seek to live for him. This is Christmas. This is the gift. We remember that he would be called great and the Son of the Most High. And typically when we think of greatness in our world, we think of megalomaniacs. They think they're great. In fact, they know they're great to the point that they want everyone else to know how great they are. But Jesus wasn't like that. He said that true greatness was defined by your willingness to serve others. And in the end, he died for his subjects. What kind of king does that? There's something different about this king than any other king who would ever live, different from any other God, different from the Buddha, different from Muhammad, that in the person of Jesus Christ we find God wrapped up into flesh. That's the gift we never expected. The child whose birth we celebrate is the gift. So what are we really supposed to take away from the Christmas story to recover that awe and expectancy? We can talk about how nothing's impossible with God. Yeah. We can talk about the fact that God chooses the lowly and the humble, so we better make sure our hearts are in the right place. Yeah. We can talk about that when our lives feel cut down like a tree, that out of the roots of the stump, God can bring new hope and new life and all things new. Yes. What are you expecting about? What's the hope that's welling up in you that you know that you need God to bring something new in the midst of that? Maybe it's something that God's calling you to that only you can do. A gift that you can give to the church or give to the world that nobody else can. Maybe it's like the woman in the video who's counting down the days to mission trip sign-ups. That expectancy was building in her, and the work day just drug on and on because she couldn't wait to go sign up for that trip. What is it for you? What's that expectancy that's growing in you? Maybe you need Christmas to be full of expectation, not merely routine. And I decided several years ago that I was done with the routine. I was done with the stress, done with running from this place to that place at a frantic pace, going through the motions. 'Tis the season, ha ha ha, bah humbug. I was done with it. I wanted to rediscover that expectancy, to rediscover that wonder, to rediscover the fact that light has shined in the darkness. And because that light has shined, we have one who's called Emmanuel, God with us. And it wasn't just Emmanuel then, he is at this very moment Emmanuel, God with us. It's about rediscovering that it's not just about decorations and parties and cookies and lights, though they're beautiful and I love the cookies. There's nothing wrong with giving and receiving gifts, but it's about something more. It's about remembering the expectancy that God built into his people, that he was going to make it all right. At some point, he was going to say yes to the redemption of the entire human race. He was going to say yes to restoring our relationship with him. He was going to say yes to peace on earth and goodwill toward people. God's people for hundreds of years before that first Christmas bought into that expectancy. They expected that Messiah. And that expectancy came this paradox of expecting the unexpected. They didn't know when it was going to come. They didn't know what he was going to look like. But they knew God was going to speak. How do we rediscover that expectancy? That wonder? My senior year of high school, I took a class called Social Problems, and everybody wanted to take this class, mostly because there was no homework. There were no assignments, just discussion. We talked about social problems, hence the name. Except at the end of the semester, we had to come up with a project to address a social problem in our community. And we decided we wanted to do a Christmas project because there were a lot of kids in our community who were living well below the poverty level, and we didn't know if some of those kids were going to get a Christmas gift, if they were going to have the opportunity to get their picture taken with Santa, so we wanted to do all that at the school. We put this whole thing together, we planned everything down to the last detail, and one day, I got to cut class because of this project, and I loved it. I had to cut class only because I was the one in that class who had a pickup truck. And I got to pick one person to go with me to cut class, and everybody wanted to go. So I felt really important and special. But I picked my buddy Joe, and everybody knew I was going to. And we hopped in my truck, and we headed down to Grandpa Irv's Christmas tree farm. So he said he was going to donate a tree. We thought we were just going to go pick up this tree, throw it in the truck, swing by Dairy Queen, head back to school, and rub it in everybody else's face that we'd been to Dairy Queen. Wrong. We got there, we're both wearing khakis and dress shoes and our Letterman's jacket because there's some kind of sports banquet after school. Grandpa Irv meets us out in front of the office and he throws a saw at us. Just pick any tree you want, boys. Cut it down, bring it up here, we'll shake it down, throw it in the truck, and you can be on your way. Problem. We both had artificial trees in our house. Neither Joe or I had ever cut down a tree. But then something happened. we started to get a little excited. We were like young little kids instead of 18-year-old football players. We started running through rows of trees trying to find that perfect Christmas tree. This one over here was really nice, but it was too tall for our space. That one was too scrawny. This one looked really nice on the outside, but on the inside the trunk was all twisted up. There's another sermon in that somewhere. And then we found it. The perfect Christmas tree. Suddenly we didn't care what we were wearing. We were down on the ground in our dress clothes and on our knees to get under the tree. We could feel the mud soaking through our khakis. We saw the tree down. We started dragging it back up to the office. We passed through on our way all of the ugly trees. You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones that you see and say, who in the world would buy this tree? And I can only think of one person. Charlie Brown. Right? You remember the story. Charlie Brown is trying to figure out the true meaning of Christmas, and he has to go and pick out a Christmas tree for their pageant. And, well, let's just have a look at it. Do you ever notice in that story how much Charlie Brown represents the heart of God? That God, that's the story of the gift of Christmas. That God looked down and saw the messiness of the lives of the people. He knew what a mess our lives would be too. He knew those moments that we feel like a tree that's been cut down. He knew that we have those moments where we felt like our hearts were shattered into 1,000 pieces. And he looked down that first Christmas and decided that he was going to send a gift. He looked down, much like Charlie Brown, and said, you know what? I think they need me. Besides, I think they need me. Linus ended up saying, I never thought it was a bad little tree. Maybe all it needs is a little bit of love. That's us in the Christmas story. Broken, cut down, don't know where our next step is going to be, but God says, out of the brokenness of your life, out of the stump that's left of what used to be your life, I'm going to bring a new branch, a new shoot. And it's going to change everything. And the gift that was given at Christmas said that we could have that newness. That we could have that hope. So be full of the expected nature of God. The expected nature of God. Be full of the hope and anticipation that Christmas is more than what we've made it. And that's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. Let's pray together.